All right. Well, welcome, Anna. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, in particular, where you are in your leadership journey, what you do. Tell us about your business, just any of that you'd like to share with the class.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about who I am first, and because it definitely ties into my leadership style and what I've done. So I'm Anna. I'm an MBA student, so awesome. Very excited for to keep developing my leadership style within the graduate school. But I'm first gen, so my mom is from Monterrey, Mexico. So I have a very, strong Hispanic culture within me. That's something that I still take a lot of pride in. So one of my very first memories I have is of working. I was in second grade. My parents got divorced very, very shortly after my brother got diagnosed with autism. And so my mom had to figure out a way to put food on the table to take care of my brother and I and to sustain life. And so I would go and clean houses with her after school in the second grade and help raise my brother. So I learned what hard work, tenacity, and grit was when I was like 6, 7 years old in second grade. And from there, I worked my whole life. I would go on the weekends with my mom to the flea market to help sell jewelry. Eventually, she became a realtor and I would help her out with that. Then she went on to staging houses. I would go help her decorate the houses. And now she owns a home remodeling company. And so, also being surrounded by that entrepreneurial spirit definitely influenced who I am. So then I went to high school at NISA Northeast School of the Arts for filmmaking. My sophomore year of high school, my cinema teacher said, "Hey, you would be amazing at marketing. You would be an amazing leader, an amazing entrepreneur. You should consider it." I took that to heart. I went home and I developed my business, Social Sophie Marketing. And my first client ever was Sean Acor. 6 years later, I still work with his sister, Amy Blankson, at the Digital Wellness Institute. And I just kept developing my business ever since I was a 15-year-old high schooler, kept bringing clients in, adding new services within my business, and staying connected with the people who are there for me from the ground up.
That is really truly inspiring. And I know that you have so many more experiences to share. So I'm just trying to be mindful of what we share actually with the class. But if you could explain a little bit what for you is good leadership and inclusive leadership and how that translates into some of the amazing things that I know that you have done and that I am so super proud of you. So if you wanted to share some of that, please.
Yeah. So when I think about good leadership and maybe leadership that definitely, needs some more developing, I like to think about leadership, like horizontal versus vertical leadership. Horizontal leadership, I think, is seen definitely more inclusive. It's definitely my preferred way of leading people and also being within organizations and stuff. Horizontal leadership, I think, allows for a team and a leader to work on the same page, on the same level. And it allows for leaders to actually have really raw and honest conversations. I think it allows for leaders to talk to their group and to actually um, understand where their group mates come from and where their team comes from, and maybe the way that different people think. And I think horizontal leadership allows for leaders to eliminate biasness, and I think it allows for leaders to have those honest conversations and to develop really strong different communication styles, and it allows for highly collaborative leadership, where I think vertical takes a lot more steps to actually talk to the leader. And both of them have their pros and their cons, but I think with vertical leadership, you practice less communication styles, because I think sometimes you're so in your own world, in a sense, where you're not talking to everybody. You're not having conversations about why someone thinks this or where someone comes from, which then naturally you might have more biasness against people. So I think horizontal leadership, where everyone's kind of on that same playing field, allows for leaders to eliminate biasness, allows for very diverse and inclusive conversations, and allows for the implementation of like new and inclusive ideas in a organization, in a team, or in a business.
Terrific. What about the global aspect, and your experience also with multiple cultures? Like, how does that play into leadership and specifically inclusive leadership?
Right. So, like I said, I have a strong, Hispanic background. My mom's from Mexico, so I've gone to and from a lot. So, definitely the way that people talk there is very different. I think sometimes, people in Mexico can be a little bit more warmer sometimes. So, I think understanding people's culture globally, understanding the way people talk, and understanding the way that people receive information is a very important part of leadership. So, for Digital Wellness Institute, we were working on a Digital Wellness Day campaign. And this is a global campaign. And we had to talk to people around the world. And we're all in Texas. The whole team is here in Texas. So we actually had to consider, it's like, okay, if we're talking to somebody in Russia or in Korea, how does digital wellness look like to them? And how do they actually talk to one another? How do they actually, so there's a language barrier on top of it as well. So, and then there's the cultural barrier. So I think, like I said, having conversation and doing your research on culture and listening to people definitely allows for diversity and inclusion on a global level. So researching, talking to people, like we have people who follow our account that aren't in the same country as us. So it's important that we have conversations with them and ask them, what does it look like to you as a person who lives in Korea or a person who lives in Japan, where it's a lot of technology and a lot of internet, just super highly advanced. So what does that digital wellness look like to you? Or what does digital wellness look like here and there? And I think it's important to have those honest conversations with people globally. It doesn't hurt to reach out. There's LinkedIn, right? You can look up people from other places and connect with them and have a conversation and see where you guys differ within the culture.
Mhm. That's really good advice. What would you say then if somebody wanted to follow your footsteps? I think you opened up your business. Did you say you were 14?
Yeah, about 14 or 15 when I was a sophomore in high school.
So, I mean, that's phenomenal. And it's almost unheard of that
Yeah.
you have developed it and also are really a superstar in this community. Um, I'm sure that we will hear a lot more of you, but if somebody wanted to follow your footsteps, what advice would you have for them?
My biggest advice to anyone who, wants to follow within my footsteps is to insert yourself into situations and conversations that you might not be comfortable with, right? Definitely where I've gotten to today is because I wasn't afraid to go talk to a CEO of a company or to go talk to the dean of a university or to insert myself into places where I know people could help to rise me, right? So I think the biggest thing is to take risks and to not be afraid about what you're doing. Because if you're afraid of taking risks and you're not willing to insert yourself into situations, you're not willing to talk to people that you're intimidated by, you never know if they could have said yes to you. And you never know if something could have happened, right? So, my biggest advice is to always insert yourselves into intimidating situations, into situations where you're not comfortable, because in a sea of no's, you're going to find a yes and you're going to find someone who can help lift you. So, definitely always be looking for networking groups, always go to networking events, always have conversations with people because you never know where it's going to take you.
And we see that example in you, where it has
Yes,
taken you.
absolutely.
My last question for you is, so in my classes, I'm really big on collaboration, learning from each other, and bringing in those different strengths that each of us have as students, to bring a team together to form an amazing outcome and to have everyone's opinions being heard. But a lot of students are really reluctant to working in groups. And I do know that you have had an experience with a group. And I was wondering if you could share that experience real quickly and what you have learned from it.
No, absolutely. So in one of my past accounting classes, I was put on a group project. I went into this project, and me being me, I was ready, I was motivated to get it done. My team, very unmotivated. They didn't care for the project because they said that they had failed the class previously and they're just taking it again. So instead of being like, ooh, okay, I'm just going to do this on my own and that's going to be that, I said, I'm going to motivate these people to want to do this project. So what I did is I sat down with every single person and I said, hey, why are you unmotivated? You know, why do you think you failed the last class, in a very respectful manner? And they were very open to being honest with me, because when you ask people these questions with an open mind, people more than likely are going to respond to what you're saying in a positive demeanor. So then I said, okay, so what do you think in terms of our projects are your strengths and are your weaknesses? They said, this is my strength, this is my weakness. I said, okay, great. Go work on what you're strong with, because that's how you feel confident and you're going to get it done. So do that. And then they're like, oh, really? Well, the last time we did this project, they just kind of threw whatever they didn't want to do on us. And I was like, well, that's not how a team works. I wanted to hear what each person said they were really good at and said what they were really, not so great at. So then to take it even a step further, the things that people had as weaknesses that the other ones had as strengths, I brought these people together and I said, let's teach each other, let's have a teachable moment and be like, hey, I'm really good at this and you need help. Let me help you out. Let me show you what we do. So I think allowing people to do what they're strong at helped allow for high motivation within the project. And then also taking a step further and having conversations outside of the classroom to be like, let me also help you with what you're not so confident in. That project went amazing. We got one of the highest grades in the class. And one of the students told me, still in contact with them today, they said, I was a C student. I was a C student and I saw them at graduation for my undergraduate degree. And they said, and I graduated SUMA. And they told me that I was a very big reason for that. And I didn't know that till 4 years later, just because I actually sat down and had a conversation with somebody and actually listened to them. So my biggest thing is sit down, talk to somebody and be intentional about what you're saying, because your words do matter and they matter in the long run. And I am definitely living proof of that beyond the project 4 years later, I impacted somebody's life.
Yes, and your story is so powerful, and I'm sure that the class is impacted by what you're saying, and your story really shows who you are and who you have become and the chances that you have taken in order to get there. So I am really grateful that you shared these moments with us, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure that we will hear a lot more of you, especially in this community, and how you're impacting other people. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate it.
Sure.